the back of an epic Forbiddendoor, the July 1st edition of Dynamite from San Diego State University promised high-stakes action. Will Ospreay and Mercedes Moné win the Owen Hart tournaments, and both would appear to set the course towards All In. And we also had a big world title match to kick things off with Mark Briscoe challenging MJF. So without further ado, let's get straight into it things. And MJF used early underhanded tactics to bloody Briscoe, who refused to slow down in his violent response. A froggy bow could not keep the salt of the earth down, but the chicken kept the pressure on MJF with a dive off the steel chair. MJF avoided a table fall by tossing Briscoe onto the apron into the break. Chicken fought back with a cactus elbow on the exposed floor and got his table back in position for a diving elbow drop onto the floor, only for MJF to get his foot to the rope to survive a pin. After managing to kick out the Jade Driller, MJF fought back, showing his mettle to set up and execute the Heat Seeker for the victory. After when he blasted Chicken with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, refusing to let medics check on him, Omega arrived to protect him and challenged the Salt on Earth to a match. MJF agreed to fight Omega next week at Beach Break, only if Omega agreed to never challenge again if he lost. While this is a non-stipulation singles match, Chicken pushed it to a hardcore edge, complete with a Crimson Mask. This storyline is kind of clear, with Briscoe pushing himself over the limit to MJF as much as possible. He continues to his exhaustion with each passing minute of blood loss. From the start, it never truly felt like Chicken had a chance, but MJF made the most of these matches to showcase his opponents. Briscoe will eventually be a world champion, but on the road to All In, MJF is unlikely to lose his gold. Omega has the best chance next week of anyone remaining. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. We then had Kevin Knight versus Lio Rush for the TNT title. The Black Heart quickly found an edge by distracting the Jet with a backpack, carrying his newly blackened ROH World TV title. His speed and chaotic pace had Knight off his game throughout, luckily finding help from Jake Doyle and Don Callis. A springboard stunner nearly took the win for Lio, followed by a cravate. Doyle pulled Knight to safety from the submission. Knight finally managed to lay out Lio with the crash landing for the victory. Afterwards, Darby Allin arrived to demand the TNT title match. Knight was ready to accept, but Don Callis called the Daredevil a criminal who would never be allowed in the title match. At no point did it ever look like the Black Heart had a chance to beat Knight, even with his obvious injury style. Still, the crowd was hyped for the action, which should always lean towards crowd pleasing, and the two athletes were flying as much as they could in the time that they had. It's nice to see Lio become a crowd favourite despite playing out an unusual gimmick. While it's hard to say how far he can go, he's likely probably not more than a mid-card role. He definitely feels like he's found a good place. AEW has a big bet on Knight, and so far he's done well in a few different roles. He's not slowed down at the heel, but it kind of feels like he's still adapting to outfits, but I'm sure it will come in time. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. We then got Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley versus the Swirl, and the Swirl are top marks before the bell and went right after the left knee of the Continental Champ. Mox needed to get the hot tag to the Aerial Assassin, who ran over both men, laying them out with a crossbody to the floor to gain control into the break. While the Swirl continued to annoy the Death Riders, Ospreay always had Mox back, helping the other one with cutter into a Death Rider and Hidden Blade combination. The most predictable match tonight was only ever going one way, but the result was never the real question in this match. As Mox and Ospreay grew closer, it's interesting to see how they work together. This was a cohesive they've looked in a while. It could easily be argued that the top guys should have looked more dominant, but neither man needs to be control of the action or in the centre. Johnson and Christian looked fantastic in the first half of this contest, putting out the athletic double teams that few others could match. At some point, AEW needs to take the two men more seriously going forward, as it looks like they can be dangerous against two of AEW's top names. So 6 out of 10. We then got Switchblade Jay White, who celebrated his return after 459 days with the crowd. He questioned the changing of AEW in his absence, including the popularity of the Death Riders. His main focus through the Dogs, calling David Finlay Nepo Baby and promising that revenge was coming for his long-term friend turned rival. This was a strong statement from White, who controlled the crowd and set them up for a chant against the Dogs in the future. He looked and sounded like a star throughout, while making clear that fans should see the Dogs vs Bang Bang Gang in a major stable war on the road to All In. White v Finlay has the potential to establish both men as future champions. In the end, though, the main goal should be building Switchblade up for a world title run, maybe next year. As we then got the Survival of the Fittest TBS Championship match, Persephone and Harley found an early partnership on the ring, taking down Shida and Amanata, only to catch Harley with a surprising crucifix bomb for the first elimination. While Stat and Persephone clashed because of the Harley's betrayal, Shida stacked up Micah to eliminate her. Amanata had Shida on the ropes after a headbutt and off with her head, but Persephone caught her with a surprise roll-up for a second elimination. Persephone tried to reverse Saturday Night Fever into a roll-up, but Stat reversed it into a stack-up pin for the elimination. Shida locked in an ankle lock, and an angry Persephone blasted the Cosmic Killer with a TBS title. Shida transitioned into her new leg stretch to force the victory. for a submission. This was always going to be a long match. It was nice to see them get time. However, it felt short due to the breaks in between. Multiple heated clashes resolved during the breaks, which is not usual with AEW, even with the standard commercial break pace. The contest, though, set up the future of the TBS Championship, particularly creating the two cleanest heels in that scene. Persephone was the star of the match, making the most of the opportunity to sell her turn into the dark side. Shida was the right choice to take the title, with so many interesting face challenges for the new TBS champion. While she and Stat have unfinished business, the story could either be Harley or Mina coming for their first singles gold in AEW. While it's a shame the freshest names would have been the most worthy winners, Shida has the most story ahead of her right now. With Ospreay caught Kenny Omega before he headed to the ring and warned the cleaner that it was his bad decision. Omega told the aerial assassin that this was his death brand and he knew what he needed to do. The cleaner refused to back down, encouraged by a crowd that believed in him. Omega accepted the stipulation of MJF, ready to lose out on his chance to be a world champion ever again, before the Sultan of Earth attacked him from behind. As Omega turned the tide, security arrived en masse, separated with the two limited luck. This was a solid, speedy push towards the rematch, though it showed AEW could have done more to set up this angle earlier. While the two men fought at Dynasty, Omega's push for a rematch should have been smooth, including not having heavy time off TV. Even if it is to protect the cleaner one last run, AEW could have kept him from appearing on TV in this pre-tape segment, rebuilding himself from the Dynasty loss. Still, at the end of the day, Omega cut strong promo on MJF, and Soulboy fans need to see this again. Peach Break looks like a pay-per-view level, even all of its own next week, and the main event is certain to be a talking point in the coming months. Overall, AEW Dynamite gets a 6 out of 10 for me. The World Championship, it seemed, was a driving force of this show, starting with MJF Briscoe and then leading to Omega. Outside of that drama, this was a night that kind of the typical AEW spot. The TBS Championship could have used more time, less break, but Shida was a good winner. It was odd not having Mercedes Moné or Thekla on the show, while Ospreay and Omega's drama could have used another week of build-up. By the end of the night, it's clear that the biggest focus was to build a Beach Breakers event, can't miss event, following on from Forbiddendoor. This could be a mistake if Beach Breakers not an absolute hit. That's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.